Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the key area where how we can detect anomalies before they become threats in Microsoft 365, right? Now, you might be saying or you might have seen that and mainly or majorly the people who are working in security team, SOC team and the team who are actually analyzing the incidents and threats and everything, be it reactive as well as proactive, right? Now, there are some thing or some analogies along with some of the ways that we can go ahead and look into it, right? What are those ways? How we can make sure we get the appropriate information before they become the threats in Microsoft 365 environment across the organization, and what are the steps we should proactively take in order to break them out, right? We wanted to stop them. We don't want them to be spreaded across the organization so that we are taking appropriate actions from the day one. We should not wait or we should not look for it to spread any unwanted situations in the environment and then we start doing reactive steps, right? And that is why this is something which I'm talking about is how you can detect the anomalies before they become threats in Microsoft 365, right? So this is going to be a kind of PowerPoint presentation, but I would wanted you to make sure understand this one, right? Even if you are a IT pros or anyone who is actually starting into IT or who have actually worked on Microsoft 365 along with security bits, including Entra ID and all other security products, right? And even if you don't have that level of understanding and experience, no matter or it does not matter, but you should have at least understanding and knowledge about it, right? So let's jump onto the presentation and I'll walk you through one by one and it's going to be easy to understand one, right? All right, so let me put this on the presentation mode first and then we'll walk you through one by one. All right. So this is the first slide, right? Where it is just detecting anomalies before they become threats, right? Along with a real life analysis to understand proactive security measures, how we are going to take it and how we should take it basically, right? And what are the steps that we should take in order to do the proactive security checks. Let's begin. Right? So this is an intro where you can see in M365 anomalies are signals of behaviors that don't really look like a normal behavior, right? Which is going to be something, maybe something is happening fishy, right? And that can be a breach later, or it could be a data leakage. Something like catching them early prevents breaches and data leakages as well, so that we should keep doing all of these proactive measures across all of these workloads you can see over here, right? So out of all of these, and you can see there are four workloads: Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. These are the workloads where data is fully residing, data is being shared across the organizations, internal and external, and data is also been created, right? So whatever the details is there, that means that data is very important for the organization, right? It could be financial data, it could be employee data, it could be project data, it could be client data, it could be any data. There is no classification, but that data is going to be the important for organization. And there are many organizations who are actually classifying their data, be it publicly accessible, confidential, private, and highly confidential or something like that, right? So basis on that, that data is going to be classified and whether people should have access to it, allowed to read, write, or share it, and basis on that, they have the different controls deployed, right? So let's jump on to the first one. So first one is baseline normal behavior, right? How you are going to do that, how you are going to identify, right? And then what's the use case here, right? So the tools which will be used, including Entra ID, Defender for cloud applications, and Sentinel, those are the tools which would allow and help us to identify and work on it, right? Now, how will you going to identify? So you will understand and identify by users' logins, including locations, device usage, and how people and organizations, along with users, are collaborating with internal and external people, right? And that is also going to give you details about whether people are connecting to the right set of details, connecting as in people are collaborating, people are working on some applications, but whether those are legitimate applications, whether those are shadow IT ones or what, right? For example, you can see the example where Elise logs in from India using Edge browser. So what it is going to capture is user is logged in from India location, from particular IP address, from particular city and state, right? And basis on that, as a security folks, you can simply go ahead and identify and understand that, right? And the real analogy here is going to be something like neighborhood watching or neighborhood watch noticing an unknown car at 3 a.m. So this means that someone at a neighborhood was looking at the car in the midnight or early morning, and that could be fishy, right? Because we don't know what is the intention of that person nearby, and maybe they are trying to plan something for that particular car. Maybe they wanted to steal or something like that, right? So this is the first one, and there are many more, right? So let's jump on second. So this is the second one, which is identity-based anomalies. How you are going to identify and what are the signals, right? Which includes impossible travel, failed logins, legacy protocol usage, right? Those are also a signs by identifying anomalies would help us, right? And is a part of Entra ID identity protection plus conditional access, right? So that is going to help us to identify and make use of those to prevent and protect identities. So the real analogy is going to be swipe card used in New York office and London office within 10-15 minutes, right? So this is going to be fishy, right? It is not possible someone just travels from one location to another location within 15 minutes and just use the same card, right? So that's a fishy and that's the impossible travel scenario, right? So let's look at the third one, which is a data access anomalies, right? And what are the signals, which includes bulk downloads, copying to personal cloud storage, external sharings, and there are many more, right? It could be uploading, downloading, sharing, deleting, right? And all those activities would be captured. And the features which are available and responsible and would help us to do this is Purview Insider Risks, right? Which is going to identify and make sure this user is trying to copy, delete, share, or maybe upload some details or data, right? And Defender for Cloud Apps is also one of the area where we can simply deploy the right set of policies, and basis on that we can put together the right set of controls there, right? If I have to look an analogy, which is a library user tries to work out with 200 books at once, right? So you can understand what does this mean is that this is fishy. Someone is trying to copy or get the lot of details and move away, right? That means the intention behind that is something else, and they don't want it to use it for personal use or personal growth or business or requirement, but they wanted to simply use it for their own self requirements, right? So the next one is device and endpoint analytics anomalies. And what are the signals? So which includes the routed devices, malware behavior, and C2 connections, right? And what are the features and capabilities we can use, which is Defender for endpoint in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, right? And what does mean is the endpoint or a Defender for endpoint has a lot of capabilities that we can deploy and employ on the devices and endpoints upon onboarding them to the endpoint and Intune and device management platform. Then it is going to help us to make sure we are going to deploy right set of controls, policies, and we are going to prevent all those such actions, right? Because we don't want malware to be entered into device and do or get the access and steal any details from the devices or from that respective user identity. Similarly, on the rooted devices and C2 connections, right? So that way we wanted to prevent and block those connections, and then their analogy is going to be kind of fleet car shows tempering and erratic driving patterns. That means there's a driver who is actually trying to uh, drive, but it is not the correct and appropriate. Instead, the driver is doing showing and tempering, right? And that's a rash driving, right? That's going to be something the people or the customers and users who are sitting and using it, then it is going to be difficult for them. The next is communication anomalies. Here are the signals, including high email volumes, strange forwarding rules, and phishing campaigns, and all of that details, right? So those would be the signals where we can deploy right set of policies, right setups. Okay. So all of those controls would be deployed using Microsoft Defender for cloud apps, right? Those would be something where we can simply go ahead and deploy one, right? And basis on that, it's going to help us to make sure we are using it correctly. And to prevent that, we have to deploy right set of controls, including anti-malware policy, anti-spam, anti-phishing, right? Safe links and safe attachments. Those would also help us to protect those scenarios, right? And then anomaly would be simply friend suddenly sending weird links asking for money, right? So this is something a simple, straightforward. We have seen this was flowing, on social media before, and this is one of the straightforward way to identify. As an example, as an anomaly or analogy, you can simply identify it. The next is centralized detection and correlation. So to understand this one is something multiple events stitched together for stronger evidence by using Microsoft Sentinel or Azure Sentinel. That has been one of the great tool or solution from Microsoft, and it also helps us to do the orchestration, which is including SIEM and SOAR capabilities of Sentinel solution, right? And then upon analyzing all that, we can enhance our control mechanism, right? So what are the controls that we wanted to deploy? And based on that, we can go ahead and deploy all the controls as well as the policies and everything together. Then a simple analogy is dogs barking, light switching on, and car alarm together, which is going to be kind of a real threat, right? That means we get a complete clarity saying that, okay, someone is trying to do something nearby car, or they're trying to either steal something or they wanted to get into car and run away, right? So these are the six ways or steps which we can go ahead and do the anomaly detection and take the appropriate actions and also deploy the right set of controls, right? So it's not something detect only anomalies, but we should also keep improving and deploying right set of controls on different workloads so that we have a complete configuration setup as well as we don't have to rely on the default ones, right? So here are the steps. What are those? To detect the anomalies, enable the logging wherever or whatever the workloads are being used, use and build a risk-based policies in the Entra subscription or Entra tenant, right? Use Defender for cloud applications to deploy application control and all other different policies, automate responses, educate users, and correlate signals in Sentinel, right? So these are the steps. Those would help us to take the appropriate steps and deploy the controls and everything, right? And here is a key takeaway, right? Anomalies are like unusual daily behavior, something like maybe if I'm sending 100 messages to 1 or 10 people, that means that's going to be a unusual behavior, right? Because I really don't do that in a day or in an hour, right? So that's going to be something kind of fishy. People might say, okay, you are sending too much. I would not like you, or I would not want that to be received. So I'll simply probably go ahead and block that number, something like that, right? So that's something the organization or user would deploy a control on it, right? The one odd event maybe is nothing but multiple odd events like a threats, right? So these are the simple and straightforward takeaways. And the goal of this would be to catch all the anomalies early before they become full down or full blown compromises for the organization, because we don't want that to be spreading across the organization and do all unwanted situations, right? So that is how it is going to be, right? And these are the topics that I have covered for detecting anomalies before they become real threats in M365, right? So yep, that is what I wanted to talk you and share about detecting anomalies and what are the controls that we can go ahead and deploy and make sure it is going to be helping organizations to improve on their security posture. And not only that one, but also it is going to keep organizations working as well as improving their security posture proactively and not the reactively, right? So proactively is the one where organization gets time to take control of all the deployments and settings and configurations. But if you are going to take after all any of the situations, something like a reactive situation, then that's going to be difficult to achieve that goal, right? So, yep, that is what I wanted to show you and talk about it. Let me know if you have any questions, any doubts, and would be happy to answer those and collaborate on anything. And don't forget to like this video, share it to your friends, and subscribe to the channel as well so that you get to see every day video whenever it is uploaded. So yeah, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and bye for now.